Bionic Commando Rearmed is a remake and an enhancement of the original Bionic Commando from the NES from 1988. We're developing already the 3D version, the sequel, or what we should call it, of Bionic Commando, and we thought that it would be a good opportunity to also bring back the old game and reintroduce that one to the old fans and kind of remind everyone of what made the original so great, and also introduce it to new fans who maybe haven't played the game. Bionic Commando from the NES is one of my absolute favorite games of all time, I would say, actually. I played it a lot, and I continued playing it even throughout me growing up. Even as I got old, I've still brought out my NES from time to time and played it, along with some of my other favorite games like Mega Man and Punch-Out and stuff. We've decided to change and alter, polish a few things from the original game. Of course, the original is a great game. It also has it already has such a great core mechanic, and we just brought in a few other, spices into the mix. The one thing that I would think is weak in the original is the boss fights, which they don't really explore the full potential of the fact that you have this arm. And I really want to bring in, the ripping shield plates of the boss and kind of dig yourself into the weak spot and really, the classic boss fights where you have to find the weak spot of the boss and bring him down. Bringing co-op into the game, that was not a mistake, but it was just one of the gameplay programmers who took a chance and just tried adding another player, and it just worked. And they brought me to his computer, and he showed me, and I was like, this is nuts, we gotta have this. So it wasn't really planned from the beginning, which is kind of cool. The weapons in the original game was another thing I would say that was kind of not well designed. They're kind of poorly balanced. We changed it around, so we added some weapons so that they're more than the original game, and we balanced them more so that they're useful. Every weapon is useful, has its own use. There are always situations where you can use, a specific weapon. Different weapons are effective in different ways against certain enemies, so we have this kind of rock, paper, scissors relationship between the weapons and the enemies. And you don't need to choose just one weapon when you go into a mission, but you can actually you bring all the weapons at all times, so you can change between the weapons at all times, and I think that's an improvement. Technically, we need to keep the size of the game to a minimum. Xbox Live has a limit of 150 megabytes, which is not a lot to try to fit an entire game into, and it's been tricky in ways. But since it's not supposed to sell, retail, I think you're allowed to take a little bit more chances, a little bit more of a low-risk project. We can try things out that, not shoot from the hip, but, be a little more daring, I think, in designing the game, because it's the casual gamers will find the game, anyway. We don't need to go where everyone's gone before. The sound design, well, the weirdest thing in the original, I don't know if anyone who played the original has been thinking about that, but none of the enemies ever make a sound at all. They shoot, they fire missiles at you. It's quite tricky to make a good sound design for a 2D game because it's so flat. You don't get a lot of distance. The entire sound design becomes kind of stale. Of course, you can have this effect that if the character is on the left side of the screen that makes the sound, you can have the sound come a little bit from the left. There are some, little tricks that you can use, but it's a tricky thing to make good sound design for a 2D game. Well, the music is the most, it's a fun part for me, because as I'm the composer and sound designer for Grin for such a long time, I'm actually both the creative director and the composer for Bionic Commando Rearmed, and it's such an honor. It's kind of like, being on the same record label as the artist that you're the hugest fan of, because Capcom has made so many games with such great music, like DuckTales and the Mega Man series and Gunsmoke and all these, of course also the original Bionic Commando. So I haven't changed, the harmonies and the melodies are there from the original game, and I've kind of updated the sound of them, kind of the way that we've done in 3D Bionic Commando, but there we do it, the cinematic way with an orchestral, symphonic sound to it, with orchestral sound. But for Bionic Commando Rearmed, which is a small game, it doesn't really fit with that kind of large sound. So I went with a kind of an electronic big beat breakbeat kind of approach.